Change rarely happens by accident. It happens when people decide to do good on purpose. Welcome to the Do Good on Purpose podcast, a place to step back from the noise, hear thoughtful conversations about the defining challenges of our time, and discover how you can be part of the solutions. Each episode connects to the show's giving circle, where listeners can choose to support the work we discuss. I'm your host, Dorothy Stuehmke. Economic opportunity is often described in statistics, employment rates, wage gaps, labor force participation, but behind those numbers are real people, in particular women who are navigating career transitions, families, rebuilding after setbacks, and working to create stability and opportunity for themselves and those around them. For nearly 3 decades, Dress for Success Worldwide has helped millions of women step into the workforce with confidence, dignity, and the support they need to succeed. And at the helm of that work today is Joanie Bily. Joanie brings a unique perspective to Dress for Success at a pivotal moment of transformation as the organization evolves to meet the changing needs of women in today's workforce. Joanie is a private sector executive, leadership expert, author, and now CEO of Dress for Success Worldwide. Throughout her career and as a single mother of 2, she has focused on what it takes for women not only to enter the workforce, but to thrive and lead within it. Today on the Do Good on Purpose podcast, Joanie and I explore the challenges women still face in pursuing economic opportunity, the power of confidence and community, and how organizations like Dress for Success are helping women build brighter futures. Joanie Bily joins us now. Hi, Joanie. Thank you so much for joining me on the Do Good on Purpose podcast.
Dorothy, thank you for having me. Thrilled to be here and to have some time with you today.
Absolutely. And I can't think of a better leader to invite and be my inaugural guest on episode 1 of the Do Good on Purpose podcast. So really excited to get into the conversation with you. You're just a powerhouse. Your career, what you've done in terms of supporting women and economic opportunity. You're a labor market expert. You're a career strategist. You're an author, and now the CEO of Dress for Success Worldwide. So there's lots to discuss today, in particular, because we are in Women's History Month. So I'm just excited to get into the weeds with you.
Oh, well, thank you. It is an honor to be here and to be with you. And we have so much to talk about, so many good things. So let's dig in.
Fantastic. So, Joanie, I want to start with the context here to ground our conversation and to give our listeners a sense of really the issues that women are facing. When we think about the words and the terminology economic opportunity, they can be kind of big words and hard to kind of wrap your head around. So, typically when we hear those words, they come with data on labor market, unemployment numbers, the wage gap, things that don't really, I think, give us a sense of what that means, what economic opportunity means to a woman, to women today. So I'm hoping you can start with grounding the conversation in an understanding of what exactly is economic opportunity for women, why is it so important, and what are the barriers women are still facing in this space?
Economic mobility and economic independence are big terms, but they are words that we really talk about every day at Dress for Success. Our goal is to provide access for women to have training and resources, opportunities to learn new skills so that they can thrive both in work and in life. And, I think that that's one of the things that's so interesting about Dress for Success, which almost started, 30 years ago and really was focused around the clothing. But today it's so much more than just the clothing. The dress, the styling is an important piece of what we do to make a woman feel good and confident as she might walk into that first interview or Maybe it's that first job or a new job, re-entering the workforce. But we have realized over time that we need to support the woman with upskilling opportunities, learning opportunities, community, so that she can truly have that career where she's making more money, she's moving up in the world. We're helping her with financial education. We have financial education programs so that she can be economically independent and provide for her family. And also, we say economic mobility, right? That she's moving forward and having opportunities. Maybe it's buying that first house or starting to save for retirement. All of these things are important pieces along the journey, and Dress for Success plays a role in really supporting the woman along the journey.
Thank you for that. That's an excellent explanation and really kind of frames the work that you're leading today. And we're going to get more into that. But I want to understand a little bit more the barriers that women
Mhm.
face. What are you seeing in the space of women and the barriers that they face, in particular, as they're entering the workforce or re-entering the workforce?
Well, there's a few barriers for women. I'm going to start with labor participation because there's an opportunity, I think, for women really to participate more in the workforce, whether that's full-time work, part-time work, being part of the gig economy. There's lots of options, but we're still seeing that this labor participation rate is fairly low. And that's because of the barriers that you're asking about. It might be childcare. That's probably a big one. Or maybe they have older parents that they're caring for as well. The cost of childcare alone is something that is a real challenge for women. When you look at women on the lower income scale, it is so expensive for them to put their children into daycare or provide some kind of child care for them that it holds them back from participating in the workforce. So childcare, affordable childcare, access to childcare is a big one that we see holding women back. But there are other barriers as well. Sometimes it's the fields that women are going into, especially right now with what's happening with AI and automation. Women really need to have the tools and the skills for the jobs that exist today and certainly in the future. And we do see that, many of the administrative roles or customer service roles are really being eliminated. And those jobs were predominantly had a large percentage of women in those fields. So women are being impacted by the influence of AI and automation more than men right now. There's multiple studies out there. I know LinkedIn just put out a report with the UN that talks about this. So we really feel like that is another barrier for women. Women need access to training and tools and make sure that they have pathways to these opportunities that again will come back to economic independence and economic mobility. They need to have the right skills to have a career that's going to be around not only today, but 10 years from now.
That's a really great explanation. Thanks for that. So my other question then is, and actually this is sort of a comment and an observation. I looked at your website, and something that really jumped out that I absolutely loved was that you said your favorite role is to be a mom to your two kids. And, I love that. I have a 16-year-old son. I'd say that's my favorite role too. But to
Mhm.
your point around, women are caregivers, we're moms,
Yeah.
we're professionals, we're entrepreneurs. We're such a multifaceted group.
Yeah.
And that piece around finding the balance as you pursue your career. I know you've written a lot about this, and you've spoken a lot about this. Can you share your thoughts on that?
Yes, absolutely. It's when you say that too, my favorite, job, definitely being a mom. Also, one of the most challenging jobs too, right? So favorite and challenging, kids need different things. Both of my kids right now are in college, but they are the greatest joy in my life. And as a parent, of course, you want the best for them. So when they're going through tough times or struggling, whether it be school or friends, or what are they going to do with their career? What are they going to study while they're in college? It's something that is always front and center. I think for me, I've always tried to be a role model, for them as well. I was a single mom that was raising them. And, I think and I hope that they saw that work ethic and dedication and commitment and being passionate about the work that you do is so important. And I really try to encourage them to certainly find a career that they love what they do and they want to get out of bed in the morning and make a difference. And that's something that's really important to me, not only for my children, but throughout my career, I've tried to help other people with that as well. But you also mentioned the word balance, and I love that word because it's something I've always tried to strive for, right? Have a little balance in life with, between work and personal life, and they intersect all the time. And I don't know if there ever is anything like perfect balance in finding that. Sometimes work will weigh a little bit more on one side, or there could be some priorities, and then vice versa. Could be on the personal side, where you spend time. So I think the advice that I give to others is really focus on goal setting, finding, what's most important to you. I'm big into making lists. You can't do it all. There's going to be some things. I always say, like, picture yourself juggling a bunch of balls, right? And you have your personal life, your professional life, everything you're trying to juggle. Sometimes you need to put a ball down to the side and say, you know what, I can't juggle that one right now, but maybe I'm going to pick that one up in the future. And that's okay. It's all about priorities and what's most important. Sometimes your family needs you, sometimes work needs you, but learn how to prioritize and stay true to that.
That's great advice. So let's now shift a little bit to learning more about you, Joanie. I mean, you've given us a little bit here and there in your introductory sort of responses. I want our audience to learn more about you and your do-good story. So you've spent your career working at the intersection of business, leadership, women's advancement. You're a mom, you're a private sector executive, now the CEO of Dress for Success Worldwide. What first drew you to the work of doing good for women, for your community? I know also the book that you just released, I believe the proceeds are going to a scholarship that benefit women. Where did you get the inspiration to do good?
Well, it's probably always been in my DNA. My mother is a nurse and my father worked in the trades, but I think seeing my mother care for others and things that she did, even as a child, I remember her doing Meals on Wheels, right? What a great organization where they would bring meals to the elderly in the community. And so I think I just had exposure to that at a very young age, and it just really stuck with me. I actually went to college and got a degree in human services and thought that I would do something similar to my mother, and then ended up on kind of a business track, which I didn't think I was going to do, but absolutely loved it. Got into the staffing and recruiting industry. And it was, obviously the private sector and the corporate world, but I always felt that tie to helping people find jobs or moving up, right? Getting the next job, helping them advance their careers. And in the staffing industry, there's a lot of women. Certainly it's female dominated, but not at the top, not at that C-suite level. And so a bunch of women that I've known for many years, we really focused on supporting one another and trying to lift one another up. And so as I rose in my career, I was really passionate about bringing women along the journey with me and supporting other women in the industry. And eventually, the book that you're referring to that's just coming out, Rising with Courage, is the second book that a group of 14 other women and myself have written, where we all share a chapter to talk about maybe getting through difficult times, overcoming stereotypes, climbing the corporate ladder, different stories that we all share. But it's all about supporting one another and encouraging more women to rise. So it's something that just came naturally. I can't say that I ever set out, on this path, But through all of that, the two books that I've written with the women, and then I wrote a book by myself called Dive In Deep, all of the proceeds, every dollar has gone to supporting women and providing scholarships to women to advance themselves in the staffing and the recruiting industry. And we're just really proud of that and encouraging people to support this work. And then it's funny how I ended up at Dress for Success. It wasn't a plan, a little bit of a pivot, right, to come to the nonprofit world, but it almost seems meant to be, Dorothy, to have this opportunity to really try and impact more women in all industries, all sectors, and really across the globe. So I just feel so blessed and honored to now have a chance to have an even bigger impact.
It just makes such perfect sense listening to your career journey that you did end up where you are now.
Well, that's what all
So
my friends say too.
it
It's
makes
funny you
total
say that.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I thank you for sharing a bit about your story because it really, I think, provides the context for our listeners to see you, the woman behind the CEO title, who you're super down to earth, single mom, raising two kids. You've always given back to your community and believed in and supported women, and look where you are now. So let's
I,
talk about Dress for
yes.
Success now, because you just joined about 10 months ago, I think.
Yeah, not even. I think it's going so fast though, but yes.
Still under a year, so you're still
Yes,
new, but
under a year.
and Dress for Success has undergone a remarkable transformation and evolution over the years. It's been around for a couple of decades now. And I think when most people think of Dress for Success, they think of professional career attire and coaching for interviews. But it has grown into so much more than that. And you have just recently launched a rebranded look and
Yeah.
feel. And there's just so much more that Dress for Success is offering its participants. So I'd love for you to share where Dress for Success came from and where you are today.
Well, I'm so glad that you asked that question. We are going to be coming up on our 30th anniversary next year. Dress for Success actually started in New York City in a church basement by the name of a woman named Nancy Loveland, who is an amazing, amazing person. Her grandmother had left her, I think it was about like $5,000, and she decided to do good, right? Just like the name of your podcast. She took that money and wanted to start what she called Dress for Success in the basement of a church and collected professional clothing from women in New York City and really started helping women that were trying to re-enter the workforce. And so that's how it all started. It took off and over time really started expanding, opening more Dress for Success locations. Today we have 130 centers in 15 different countries, and we are really focused on not only helping the woman dress, right, and feel good about going on that interview and getting that job, but what we're calling it is kind of the 5 Ds of success. We want to help a woman dream so that she can see like that power of possibility and really imagine a better life for herself. So we say dream, we say dress, but develop is the third D. And that's where we are really starting to offer programs, opportunities for learning. It could be financial education opportunities, skills, maybe AI training. So develop is really kind of like a key, what I would say, circle of success. And then we get into drive, which is the fourth D. And that is around resilience, helping the woman really continue on that journey of economic independence. So it could be community, professional women's groups. It could be ongoing, like health and wellness, longevity. So really trying to help the woman really stay resilient and keep, moving forward on the journey. And then the fifth D is donate, which is all about not only the woman maybe having an opportunity to give back, but it's about mentorship, coaching, volunteering, and of course the financial aspect. of it as well, which is very important to support all this work, that we're doing. So those are our 5 Ds, but we're really excited. We've just updated our brand and all the messaging. So you'll start to see kind of a new logo for Dress for Success, but it's so much more than that. It really is signifying that this is the next chapter, the next evolution of how we really support the woman and really surround her with services and tools and resources to really help her along this career journey and also her life. It's not just about the career, but really how she thrives in both work and in life.
Love that. I think this is an amazing new chapter for Dress for Success. And if you just think about the words dress and success,
Mhm.
it's not just dressing up in the professional attire, it's how you dress yourself up internally too. And
Absolutely.
right. And all of those things that you talked about, I think it's so important, that confidence piece, right? And the success piece. Can you talk a little bit about that? How do you define success at Dress for Success?
Yeah, that's a great question when you think about it. I love the word success, and I love that we're saying, of course, we're talking about Dress for Success. And just like I mentioned, the 5 Ds, right? There's so much more to it. We want them to dream for success, to think big. We want them to develop. We want them to continue along this journey. But success means different things to different people. And it's more about that personal journey. What one woman wants to do is going to be very different, than another. And so when I think about success, I kind of come back to that dream in the circles of our 5 Ds. It's what is that individual's dream? And then how do we help her get there? And I think progress along the way, milestones, minor steps, but just like moving in that direction is how we define success and celebrate, those milestones along the woman's journey. So to me, it's a journey. There's no like one definition, and it's very individual for the woman.
So, on that note, can you give me an example of a participant or a couple of different types of participants who come through your program and sort of the journey that they take when they meet Dress for Success and they go through one of your programs?
Yes, women come to us at all different stages, different situations, and I'll share a few with you. Sometimes it is a woman that maybe she stayed home and raised her kids, for the last 10 years, but is now looking to re-enter the workforce. Could be someone that's even been an attorney and thinking about, okay, I need to get back into the workforce. Maybe they need some career coaching or readiness to get themselves to that point. At the same time, it is a full spectrum. We work with women in prison, women that have been incarcerated that are going to be coming out of prison and reentering the workforce and reentering the world. Recently, I visited a women's prison in Missouri and had a chance to talk directly with a group of women that have gone through a professional development program. And they are talking about their goals and their visions of what they want to do. They had created vision boards of what they want their life to look like when they come out of prison. They have had opportunities to learn manufacturing skills because they can come out of prison and get a job in manufacturing and make $25 an hour as starting pay. So we've helped them with learning manufacturing skills training so that they can get that job when they re-enter the workforce. So that's one example. But then there's also teachers. Teachers in many states do not make, big high salaries, and they really struggle maybe with the professional attire. So we have a group of teachers, let's say, for example, in Palm Beaches, they do a big event where they will help 300 women in Palm Beach County that are teachers come in, have access to clothing to start the year off right, give them resources, and give them school supplies for their classrooms. And so, I've met women across the spectrum from low income in prison to teachers to attorneys that we've helped to executives in the financial sector. And the one thing I think that I can say about Dress for Success is we meet the woman where she's at, and we really try to understand what she's going through. How can we be the best resource for her to help her along this journey? And I know I'm probably talking too much, but I'm thinking of another woman that just reached out to me who is now a state representative in Florida and just passed a bill in Tallahassee, which is focused around domestic violence and supporting the individual that might have been a victim of domestic violence. She was a victim, and she picked up and moved herself to Florida, and said, all right, I got to find a job, and was going to get back into the dental industry. And she went to a Dress for Success because she had no clothing. She knew she was going to go on interviews. Dress for Success helped her, styled her, gave her an outfit. She wore it to 5 interviews. She got a couple of job offers. Then she went back. Dress for Success gave her scrubs and clothing and support and part of a community. And along her journey, she is now a state representative. And she
That's
credits a lot of it
incredible.
to not only herself, but Dress for Success. There's so many stories, and I probably could go on, but it's incredible the work that Dress for Success is doing around the world and in communities, and it's changing the trajectory of women's lives. And that's why I'm so passionate about it.
I love that. Thank you for those stories, because I think we can talk so much about the programs and the services and the support, but when you actually can look to a person and see what they've done with these resources and what they've been able
Yes.
to achieve and their definition of success, right? I think that that's incredible. So, congratulations on that. Wow.
Thank you. And thank you for asking. It really is so inspirational to see so many of these women, excelling in life and giving back to their communities as well, which is so wonderful.
Yeah. So, you've talked a lot about career advancement and leadership. This is your bread and butter, but you've also been pretty candid about, I think, failures and
Mhm.
missteps. And it's tough, I think, for women in the working world who are trying to enter or re-enter the working world to figure out how to deal with that, right? Because that
Yeah.
impacts confidence. So, wondering if you can talk a little bit about the role of confidence in the work that Dress for Success does to prepare women to re-enter and enter the workforce.
Yes, absolutely. The one thing I love about being in a Dress for Success center is when the women come in, to actually have a styling, maybe they're going on a job interview. And when they come in, you can see that they might feel uneasy. And of course, we try to make them feel comfortable and welcome them. And we're so excited that they're there. But there's a special magic, certainly, in providing the woman attire that they really feel good in, and they start to see themselves a little different. And it starts from the inside out. It's not just about the clothing, but it's really helping them kind of ignite that confidence that's within them. And I think we all need to do that at different points in our life. We all experience failure. We all have, different journeys that we're on. We may say, oh, mistakes made here, but we learn from them. And I think that's the key. I mentioned my book, Dive In Deep, and that's really a metaphor that I think about with diving in. If you think about a pool, I always say there's always water in the pool, right? Or hopefully there's water in the pool. But when I was a kid, I was so fearful to dive off a diving board and dive into the pool. And all my cousins were playing and having a great day, and they're all diving off the diving board. I'm like, I just got to go for it and try it. And eventually I dove into the pool and probably made one of the biggest belly flops, in life. And maybe it stung, right, for a little while, but I did it and I had a lot of fun. And then I kept doing it again and again. And so I use that metaphor in the sense that, you know what? We're going to make belly flops in life, and some are going to hurt a little bit more than others, but we can't stop diving off the diving board. We need to keep practicing and learning and trying new things and really enjoying the journey, along the way. Stop beating ourselves up if it's not a perfect 10, off the high dive. That's okay. And so I can just say that I've made lots of belly flops in my life. You know what? You learn from each one. You always learn more from your failures than you do from your successes. And, keep diving in. And that's what I try to do. And that's what I try to encourage others to do as well. No one's perfect, but I really want to encourage people to dive into their best life and seize those opportunities because it's a lot more fun than being stuck in that fear, right? That fear mode. So embrace your fears and go for it.
I love that. I love the metaphor too of the belly flop. I think all of us can relate to that on some level.
Yes.
I think that's great. So, my next question is around what do you wish or hope that employers really understood more about women who come out of, for instance, a Dress for Success Worldwide program, or just women in general who are struggling to get into the labor market? I mean, you've been on the private sector side, on the
Yeah.
hiring side, and now you're on the other side with this nonprofit helping to develop these women and their full potential. What do you wish employers really knew?
I wish employers would realize that investing more in training and development and building community of women in their organizations has so much power and could really help create an incredibly productive culture, right? That would drive results. And I think sometimes we miss that as employers. And I've had the pleasure in my career being in the staffing and recruiting industry. I've worked with thousands of employers, and some get it better than others. But my advice would be create opportunities of learning, of education, of community, because it will have rippling effects for the organization. I also, to your question about what do I hope employers know about Dress for Success, is that we can be a great resource for that. Dress for Success is committed to developing women, to building community of women that support each other and lift one another up, that do good, right, together. And we can be a great partner to employers in making that happen.
That's fantastic. So, what keeps you up at night and what gives you hope?
What keeps me up at night is how do we take this to the next level, right? How do we go out and think about really building maybe a platform to offer women more pathways, more learning opportunities so that they can advance themselves? How do we help them get the right careers for the jobs of tomorrow and the future? And so I think there's an opportunity for Dress for Success to play a much bigger role. And I would just be so honored to lead the organization over this, even think about this next decade of just where can we take our online learning platform, partnerships with educational partners or even trade skills. There's opportunities for women to go into the trades or women to go into manufacturing or construction. But I want Dress for Success to play a larger role in creating those pathways and opportunities for women so that they can really thrive.
So, my final question for you then is for the listeners who are moved by this conversation and what you've shared about the vision that you have and where you are taking Dress for Success Worldwide next, if they choose to donate to the Do Good on Purpose Giving Circle, where will their donations go? What will it support?
Well, thanks for the opportunity to talk about that. Right now, we are raising money in a few areas. One is to build out our online learning platform, which will support our global network and will also reach women in communities where we may not have a Dress for Success center. So that is an opportunity where women can learn online, have access to master classes, right? Like maybe a series on AI or career coaching, career readiness, financial education, investing, retirement. And so these are, programs that we want to scale and offer to women, which is so important. But there's also other ways and other things, certainly that we're doing. We're looking to really build out more programs around health, well-being, longevity, women that, need support going through menopause. So all of those areas, we will have a whole health and wellness track and programs to support women along their journey. So it's all about training. It's all about upskilling. It's about supporting the women. Again, thinking about those 5 Ds, right? Of yes, we want to help them dream and dress, but we really want to help them develop, keep that drive going, and then give back and donate to the community. So for your listeners that are interested too, they can learn more about us at dressforsuccess.org. There's also opportunities to volunteer in the community and get involved. So lots of ways that they can support our mission and the work that we're doing to try to lift up women around the world.
Thank you so much for joining me, Joanie. This has been such an inspirational conversation. I'm so thrilled you're in this role. You're perfect for this role. And I can't wait to see where Dress for Success Worldwide goes next.
Well, thank you, Dorothy. And thank you for having me on your Do Good podcast. I'm just thrilled to have a chance to speak with you and really honored to be with you today. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Joanie. Before you go, I want to tell you about Ann Woodman Jewelry, whose pieces I'm wearing in this episode. Ann hand makes these beautiful pieces out of 14-karat gold-filled wire. They're light and lovely and easy to wear, and I'm wearing some of her pearls, which give a fun twist to a very classic look. Ann believes strongly in giving back, and so she will be donating 10% of sales generated from this podcast to the show's Giving Circle. So if you want jewelry that feels good and does good, check out a link to Ann Woodman's jewelry in the show's notes. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode on the Do Good on Purpose podcast. And if today's conversation inspired you, please consider supporting the work through the Do Good on Purpose Giving Circle, which is linked in the show notes. And if you really enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. Share it with someone who believes in building a better world, because change rarely happens by accident. It happens when people decide to do good on purpose.